Hey there! Do you want to become a Fabric data engineer? Or maybe you're just curious about Microsoft Fabric, especially in data engineering area. If so, you're in the right place, because this free course is all about data engineering using Microsoft Fabric. My name is Piotr, and that's the first of many episodes. Now, in this first episode, I want to cover some basics, like how this course will be structured, what to expect from it, or who am I? Then, I will explain what data engineering really is, based on a real-life example just to make it crystal clear. And finally, I will tell you how you can help me grow with this channel to create more free content for you. So, let's get started. Alright, so first of all, who am I? My name is Piotr, I'm a senior solutions architect. I've been working in IT for almost 20 years, and most of the time I spent working on various data-related solutions. And trust me, I've seen some wild stuff, crazy things out there. I hold multiple Azure certifications, including the latest one, DP700, which is Fabric Data Engineer, which simply means that I just know my stuff. Now, this is not the first course I'm creating, no, because previously I created this very well received DP203 course, which is available on YouTube. And actually you can take a look at this course, and the link will be available in the video description. It was pretty long, it had 54 episodes, each of which was about 1 hour long, so a lot of stuff. Now, if you're not sure if my way of teaching will work for you, just go there, take a look at sample episodes and see if that will work. Alternatively, just read those comments that I collected here and put on the screen. Now, what's the primary goal of this course? So I want to help you to master data engineering using Microsoft Fabric, which means that I will cover all those areas in Fabric that are relevant for you as a data engineer, which also means that I will talk more about what Microsoft calls a data engineering workload in Fabric. Now I will cover a broader area, because I will cover all the stuff that, in my opinion, is important, just like I did for DP203. The secondary goal is to help you to prepare for DP700 exam, Fabric Data Engineer. This course will also be beneficial for DP600 exam, but it will not be enough, because I don't plan to cover Power BI stuff, or at least not in the detailed way that is needed by the exam, but it will be still be useful. Now, I don't want to rush with this course. I want to take my time to analyze all those details of Fabric in a proper way. So first of all, I want to make sure that specific component does the job. I want to show it how it works, explain what to expect from it. So that's the primary goal, right? Show you how it works. But apart from that, I want to check different areas or different aspects of various Fabric components, like how to use it in a secure way. Is security built into this feature? Can we follow those industry standards or not? How about networking? What do we have to do to enable our solution to be connected using private connectivity? How much it will cost? How to deploy it to other environments, to UAT or prod? Do we have to do it manually? Or is it a better automated way to handle this? And if yes, what is supported and what is not yet supported? or how fast it will be, the whole processing. Because Fabric is all about choices and options. We can achieve the same business goal using different parts of Fabric, and each of them will differ based on skills you need to have, based on performance or costs, and I want to compare those stuff. Now, if you already passed DP203 exam, if you're already a Azure data engineer, then transition into Fabric should be pretty easy for you, because a lot of stuff that you know already is still applicable here for Fabric. And even though in a Fabric you will use completely different set of tools than in Azure data engineering, still a lot of knowledge is transferable, it's applicable here, so it should be quite easy for you, especially if you followed my DP203 course. It also means that some episodes that I recorded for DP203 exam will be also included in this playlist. So don't panic if you see on the Fabric playlist some episodes with DP203 in the title. Everything is fine. It simply means that this content is still valid here. For example, a video about Delta Lake format. It is applicable regardless of Fabric or Azure data engineering course. Now, when it comes to you and what you should know when you start learning Fabric, basically I will try to cover all the steps from the very beginning. So even if you know nothing about data engineering, I will try to do my best to help you to understand everything. But I assume that you know at least basic SQL syntax. And SQL is still widely used, so I assume that you can write a basic select statement. So have that in mind. If not, then it might be a little bit more difficult for you to follow some examples, but you should be able to handle this. Then, when I started my DP203 course, I asked you, my viewers, to create notes, because the stuff that I'm covering, that's a lot of it, a lot of knowledge to ingest. And some of you took this advice to heart and created fantastic notes. And what is even better is that you decided to share these notes with the community. And actually, those notes are available on my GitHub on tableauonazure/dp203 repository in this 0 notes by community directory. And here we can see 2 set of notes created by Zishan and Akashdeep. I probably mispronounced your names, so sorry guys for this. But those notes are fantastic. And actually that's the true power of community, to learn together, to share the knowledge with others. So guys, if you would like to create notes, that would be great. If you would like to share those notes with others, it would be even better. So I count on you. Now, this course will be structured in a similar way as I did for my DP203 course, because simply this format worked for me and it worked for you. There is one change though that I'm considering. Maybe I will make episodes a bit shorter, because in DP203 a typical episode was about 1 hour long, which is quite a lot, to be honest. And maybe I will make them shorter just to make it more easy for you to watch it, to find time to watch this. But don't worry, I will not cut any content out of the course. No, everything will be there, but maybe it will be split into more episodes. And about the schedule of releasing new episodes, I plan to release at least 2 episodes per month. Maybe more, we'll see how it goes. And I guess that's it about this introduction part. So let's move on to data engineering, what it really is and why should you care about this. And I believe that the best way to explain data engineering is to use a real-life example to show you all those challenges that you might face as a data engineer. So here it is. So I have a wife who is a writer. She writes books as a hobby. She wrote 4 books so far, and she has a publisher who, well, publishes her books. And this publisher has a website to which my wife can log in and check her sales. And actually, I noticed that it became her everyday morning ritual to log in to this website and check if there was any sale made during the previous day. And when I saw this, I thought to myself, hey, that's a great opportunity for me to automate this process, to grab this data, process it, and detect if there was actually any sale made. And if yes, send an email to my wife and show some nice reports about her total sales. And to prove my wife that I really do know something about those computers. And I decided to do this. And I faced some challenges. Even though this project was super small, I faced some issues that I would like to talk about. So first of all, that's the website to which my wife has to log in. And once she is logged, she has to go to this Your Invoices tab. I know this is in Polish, so I will try to do my best to translate it. And the thing that is the most interesting for me is this table in the middle that shows various books that were sold through various sale channels. So let me explain what this table contains. But actually the first issue was actually how to connect to this data, how to retrieve it. The thing is that this publisher, he doesn't expose an API to which I could connect and grab this data. There is no database publicly available to which I could connect. So usually, as a data engineer, the first thing you have to do is to figure out how to connect to your data sources, how to grab the data. And in this particular case, I had to somehow impersonate my wife, just logging in, clicking on this proper area on this website, and then scraping the content of this HTML table. But this is doable. Then, the data itself. What does it contain? So you can see here that the table has 4 columns, and let's go one by one. So the first column, it tells us 2 things. So first of all, when was the last sale made through this sale channel? So that's this date. And secondly, is what was the sale channel through which the sale was made. In this case, it means that through Google Play, this particular book was sold in 2023. Alright, that's fine. But the issue is that these 2 types of information are contained in the single column, date and the sale channel. And actually, in my data model, I want to have it separated. So what I have to do with the data, I have to parse it. I have to split it into multiple columns. So that's the first thing that you probably would have to do with your data once it is loaded. You have to transform it. You have to apply some business rules. Then we've got a second column that actually tells us what was sold, what product, what book was sold through this specific sale channel. And it actually, again, bundles some data into a single column, into a single cell. So let me explain what this data means. So the first part of this row is a book title. What was sold? What product? Alright, fine. But we've got more. The second part of this value is a book format, whether it was an ebook, audiobook, or paper book, right? And finally, in case of ebooks, we've got a file extension, whether it was EPUB, MOBI, or PDF. So again, a lot of information stored in a single cell that we want to parse. We want to split it into separate columns. So later on, I can analyze this data across various dimensions, across various criteria. And we'll cover dimensional modeling later on. And I can hear my copilot in the background that's trying to distract me. So yes, you will see sometimes my cats doing crazy stuff in the background. There's nothing I can do about it. They will sleep all day, but once I start recording, they will interrupt me. Anyway, moving on. The next column is simply number of copies that were sold through this specific sale channel of a specific product. So that's pretty simple. And finally, we've got amount. How much money my wife got for selling those books. And as you can see by the numbers, writing books doesn't pay the bills. That's why it is just a hobby, not a full-time job. Alright, so we know that we've got to load this data, parse it, process it, cool. But once I did this, I noticed some additional challenge. So basically, this whole table, it shows aggregated data, accumulated, the data that is grouped by a product and by a sale channel. Alright, but what does it mean? Well, it simply means that, let's say, one day we've got a single book sold, single copy through Google Play, and the next day, let's say we've got another 2 copies sold of the same book through Google Play. What it would mean that this table would then display not 1, but the value 3, because 1 plus 2 equals 3. It's an aggregated table, which is fine for the author who logs in and just want to see total sales. That's pretty cool, right? But for me, who is implementing a data engineering solutions, it is not that great, because I want to have daily sales, transactional data, not aggregated one. Because when I have daily values, granular values, then I can slice and dice it in the way I want. I don't have to follow this grouping that is done on the website. So it means that with this data, I have to apply some business rules to convert it to daily sales. But is it possible? And actually, if you think about this, yes, it is possible. And it's pretty simple, right? So basically, if I run this processing, this data ingestion process every day, then what I have to do is to subtract yesterday values from today's values. And if there is a difference, then it simply means how many copies of a specific book were sold on a particular day. So that's an example of business logic or transformations that I had to apply on this data. All right, is it all? Not really. The next thing is that, well, we know this data is aggregated, but aggregated from what point in time? And actually, it depends. So every time my wife generates an invoice, basically it means that she goes to the publisher and says, I want to cash out, give me all the money that I earned. And she would get the money, and then this table would be resetted. It would be empty, and the values would start to accumulate from scratch again. Alright, fine, makes sense. But it means for me, for my processing, that I have to be aware of this fact to be able to properly calculate those daily values, those daily sales. And in this case, my data source was actually my wife, who told me, oh honey, I forgot to tell you that I generated new invoice, so update your system to process this data properly. So that's another thing that you have to be aware of, that sometimes your data source is not a system, it's not a file, it's not an API, it's a person who will tell you something. Is it everything? No. So apart from this publisher website, my wife sometimes sells books directly, face to face. For example, she goes to some events in a library or to some book fairs when she meets her readers, and then she sells books face to face, giving an autograph. And she keeps track of those sales in an Excel file that she manages. Everyone loves Excel, right? The whole world analytics runs on Excel. And she obviously wanted me to include those sales on the site in my processing. So yes, so apart from this website, yet additional data source that I have to process was this Excel file available somewhere that was maintained by my wife with a completely different structure, with a completely different logic. But yes, that's something very common, that you will have a lot of different data sources that you have to process. Alright, and there is one more thing that I could do. I didn't. So basically, my wife sometimes runs a promotional campaign on Facebook when she advertises her books. And what I could do would be to connect to Facebook Marketing API to grab the data about those campaigns and then correlate it with the sales, just to see if there was any impact of those ads on her sales. And spoiler, no, there wasn't any significant impact, so it was not worth it. Great. So once all this data was ingested, processed, those business logics were applied, data was cleaned, I had to present the results somehow to my wife. And I did this in two ways. So first of all, well, if I detected some sale, I sent this nice email to her. Hey, there was some sale made of this particular book through this sale channel. That's how many copies were sold, and that's how much money you got. Which means that you no longer have to log in every day and check this, because every morning it will be done automatically, and if any new sale was detected, then you will have a mail in your mailbox. So it is automated. That's one thing. Secondly, what I did was to create a set of reports for her using Power BI that you can see here on the screen. And I know those reports are ugly. They don't look very nice. And I admit this, I'm not a Power BI person. I don't have front-end skills, but those reports do the job. And when I showed this solution to my wife, she was impressed, really. But the first question she asked was, all right, but can I have this in Excel? And yes, that's again a very common case, that no matter how beautiful reports you create, your end users would like to dump the data into Excel. In my case, those reports were not beautiful, so this decision was justified, but you have to be prepared and don't take it personally. It's just the way it is. Alright, so that was a very small project, but you can see already what data engineering was all about. And actually, let me draw it on a very high-level diagram. And you will see in this course that I will be drawing a lot of diagrams, because I believe that explaining something through a good diagram is worth it. Alright, so let me draw a typical data analytics solution. And please remember that in general, we can split those solutions into two types: batch solutions. So actually, let me write it down. We've got batch solutions and streaming ones. And the difference is as follows. So batch solutions are all about processing data in batches. Basically, it means that you would have your process designed and scheduled to run, let's say, once a day, usually during the night when no one is working. So during the night, your process will kick in. It will grab the data that was generated during the day, it will process it and prepare some data outputs, reports, emails, whatever you do. So the next day, when employees come to work, they will have this fresh set of data prepared. And that was my example was from this batch world. On the other hand, you might have streaming solutions when you have a constant stream of data coming that you have to process in real time. For example, you might have a set of IoT devices that constantly measures something and sends you some information that you have to process right now without any delay. So here, in case of streaming, you cannot just wait till the night to process the data. No, you have to do it as the data arrives. So batch versus streaming. And I will cover two of them. But I will start with batch because that's simpler approach and still it's more common than streaming ones. And the diagram that I will prepare right now is about batch processing. So how does it look? A typical data analytics solution. So usually we start with some data sources, and very often it will be just files like CSV files, some Excel files, some JSON files, and so on. And I know it's 21st century, but we still operate on files. We exchange data using files. It's still very common, so don't be surprised by this. Apart from this, very often you will connect to some database. Database is a very good type of data source because usually it has data nicely structured. And it can be any type of database, SQL Server, MySQL, Oracle, or whatever vendor you use. It might be located on company on-premises infrastructure, or maybe somewhere in the cloud, in Azure, in Google, or Amazon. Various flavors of database you will face in your data engineering career. Then you might have some APIs to which you will have to connect, some REST APIs, GraphQL APIs, or whatever API you can think of. But basically, all of those stuff I will just call data sources, which simply means that's the stuff that contains the data that you want to process. Then, once you identify all those data sources, you have to figure out how to connect to them, how to read the data. And very often what you will do would be to make this data available in your data analytics solutions. And again, very often you would want to ingest this data. So ingest, or you can call it extract, which simply means that you want to connect to the data source, grab the data, and dump it in your solution somewhere. And here, this somewhere, I will just call it a storage area. And now, the nice thing about those high-level diagrams is that I can just put a box, call it storage, and call it a day, right? In real life, this storage component of our system, it will be more complex. It might be used in various services, various components inside, depending on the type of data we want to store, or depending on the features we expect it to offer. In this case, we just want to store the data as it is, usually using some files. But the thing is that this data that we just read, it usually is not ready to be used on reporting because it has to be cleaned, it has to be parsed, some business logic has to be applied. And the fun fact is that very often the guys that own the data sources will tell you that their data is perfect, it's pure, it's pristine, it has no quality issues, which is not true. Very often, almost every data source has some data issues, either invalid values in some columns or missing data, different date formats that you will have to handle somehow. Which means that once you ingest the data, usually you want to process it somehow. And again, this process term is very broad because it depends on your business case. In some cases, it might mean simply just apply some business logic rules, or convert currency, or convert string to numbers, or whatever you have to do. Anyway, once you process the data, you would like to store it somewhere, again, this time in this processed format. But for simplicity here, I will again store it in our magical storage box. And for now, that's fine. We just need to dump this data again somewhere. Later on, I will show you which components of Fabric can be used to achieve this. Then, once we have this nice data available, we would like to serve it to data consumers. And depending on our use case, we might have different types of data consumers. So, for example, we might have users. In my example, my wife was my data consumer. And in this case, when exposing data to users, let's make the smiley user, we usually want to show it in a way that is meaningful to the user, which means very often various kind of diagrams, of charts that show the insights in a meaningful way. So we might have some line charts, bar charts, pie charts, some KPIs like this green arrow pointing up. That means everything is fine. Or maybe we can even have a good old-fashioned table with a lot of detailed data, like those sales. But anyway, we want to serve this data somehow to end users. So that was in case when your end user is a person. But very often, you would like to share this data not only with a person, but with some other application, with other system. So let me draw it like this. So we've got some application that has to consume our data. So again, we've got to serve it somehow. And now, depending on a use case, you might serve it in a different way. For example, you might use some REST API, some GraphQL API that this application could connect to and grab the data. Or you might expose it simply using SQL endpoint, so the application would just write SQL statements against your data. Or you might want to share your data as files, so the data consumer would just process the files. Again, it depends on your use case. And that's the very high-level typical diagram of a typical analytics process. And what I want to do in this course, I want to follow the data, which means that the course will be organized from left to right. I will focus on data ingestion, just explain what options we have, how to use them, then how to store the data, how to process it, and finally how to serve it. And of course, everything will be combined with CI/CD, security, performance, costs, and so on. So that's the goal. Now, at this moment, I don't know how many episodes will be there. It depends. It depends how detailed those episodes will be. I know that for DP203, I recorded 54 episodes, which was quite a lot. Probably we'll have something similar here, but we'll see. I don't know yet. So I don't want to make any numbers because I don't have a full agenda created yet. All right. And the last part I want to talk about is, well, how you can help me grow this channel and create more free content for you. So first of all, you can share the knowledge about this course, about me, about this channel among your colleagues. So more people would be aware of it and more will watch it. That's one thing. Secondly, you could buy me a virtual beer if you like the content I create. And to do this, you would go to this buymeacoffee.com website. A link will be available in the video description. And here you can just buy me a beer or two. It's up to you. And the last thing is that you can use this YouTube membership. So what is it all about? So basically, YouTube has the concept of channel memberships. that gives you some additional perk for a monthly fee. And what I did was to create 3 levels of this membership, and you can see them when you go to any of those episodes. Let me stop this. And here there is this join button. If you click on this, and let me stop the video, you will see those 3 levels that I called Junior Data Engineer, Data Engineer, and Senior Data Engineer. And each of them differs by the number and type of perks it gives. So for example, the Data Engineer level, the middle one, it will give you early access to new videos. So once I record them, it will be made available for you. Or it gives you a priority reply to comments. While the Senior Data Engineer level, it gives you all the stuff that was in the previous levels, plus exclusive access to all the diagrams I draw, and I will create a lot of them, and exclusive access to the source code that I will write during this course. And basically that's it for today. So to summarize, I'm really excited to start this course. I believe it will be a really good way to learn about Fabric. So thanks for watching and see you next time. Take care.